Asphalt Simon goes on parole. He'll be released and he'll be living in the Parole area. But another case comes to the fore. Remember, 7 years ago, Lavona Solomons was convicted and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment for the kidnapping of Zephany Nurse. Back in April 1997, she raised her as her own daughter, naming her Miche, and then portraying this child as her own, including portraying her as a child to her husband. Lavona Solomons now also about to be released for parole. We speak now to Zephany Nurse, the young woman who was as an infant abducted by Lavona Solomons. Zephany, thanks so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate you agreeing to talk to us. But how are you feeling ahead of Lavona's upcoming release on parole?
Hi, good morning, Lisa. I'm well, thank you. Hope you're fine too. I think it's more of a relief for me. I think now that everybody can actually move on with their lives and everything can now settle down, I'm quite relieved.
When was the last time you saw her?
So the last time I saw her was last year at our last parole hearing. That was the last time.
And you exchanged words?
We did. The last time when I saw her, there was a lot of questions that was asked, a lot of things that she had to clear up. Yeah.
And you've largely kept in touch with also Michael, the man that you grew up believing was your father. I take it that you're largely comfortable with Lavona's release on parole, Miche. Is that what you're feeling?
I think I am more, maybe not too comfortable, but I think I'm more at peace with the fact that she's coming out, and it stems a lot from forgiveness and just, moving on with life, as I said.
We've been talking a lot about parole hearings and the parole system over the last few weeks. Many people don't necessarily understand that there is a process where victim and perpetrator talk publicly in front of a parole board, but also privately. What has that experience been for you? It's a discovery. Your story is extraordinary. But at the same time, you live with your own emotions. But tell us, go through that process of that discussion between yourself and Lavona.
Yeah. So we were all sitting at in a boardroom last year. I wasn't at this parole hearing. I was unfortunately not able to make it. But what I can recall from it was extremely emotional. There was a lot of counselors, myself and my biological parents as well. My husband now was with me as one of my main supporters, but it is extremely emotional and tough when you're sitting in front of someone that has done something like this to you. In any case, any perpetrator, it's extremely emotional. Yeah, so there was a lot of counselors, but at the end of the day, when the parole hearing was done and there were some things that she said, it was also once again a sign of relief for me, as it was actually like one of my first time seeing her and communicating with her about what actually happened. Yeah. So we never really got like a private moment or one-on-one session to actually really ask questions like, "Mommy, why did you do this? Why didn't you say anything? Like, what went through your mind?" You know what I mean? That kind of conversation that never took place yet.
And if she is and she will be released on parole, and she'll be largely restricted to a home, would you feel comfortable to go around and visit a home that you grew up in for 17 years, along with Michael? Are you expecting that you'll have a quiet moment in the home that you called home, along with the mother you thought was your mother?
Well, obviously not now. There's just way too much things happening now, and I'm kind of building like my own life, and myself and my biological parents are still building a relationship. So maybe in the near future, but definitely not now. She needs to first also grasp herself and her life with coming outside and, adapting to life and changes and all of those things. So definitely not now.
I don't think anyone can judge for any of the decisions that you make, because it's of course your story. But you've spoken about getting to know your biological family after
Hmm.
after 17 years. How's that been going?
It's been it's been an incredible journey. Oh my gosh, it's been hard. It's been tough. I'm not gonna lie, but it's also been loving, and we've grown a lot over the years as adults, and our relationship, we're also in a healing process, so we are working hard towards that relationship. That's why I'm still kind of like placing distance between myself and Lavonda, because I understand my relationship with my parents are still fragile.
Yeah. What you're saying, you want this process to take time. It may take weeks, months, if not years, all at your pace. But you are now a mother yourself. You have your biological family that you've gotten to know over the last few years. But at the same time, you must have still a very, very close bond with particularly Michael Solomons. You say that you don't want to risk spoiling any relationship by introducing your children to Livonia just yet. Have you thought how you would go about, how do you tell that particular story? It's a very public story that you've unfortunately had to endure. But how do you tell that public story from your point of view to your children if one day you decide, well, actually I want to introduce Michael and Livonia as the people that raised me, to, despite the circumstance, to my children?
Yeah. So my kids, they know Michael, the father that had raised me. They've got quite a close relationship with him. I've gradually told my children what has happened and make them understand, because my daughter, she actually asked me, Mommy, why is Ma Celeste your mommy, and then you have like another mommy? And she asked me, why is Michael like Papa, and why is Pa Moon Pa? And then I had to explain to them what had happened, and they were like, oh Mommy, that is so sad. So I have explained to them, and I think like over the next couple of years as they grow up, we will just have to keep on explaining to them. I've always wanted my kids to know a truth that I never got the opportunity to know, and that is for them to hold and get to know their real grandparents.
You've lived a very public life over the last few years. I'm sure with this chapter closing, you can step back. You won't have radio stations calling you asking if you'd like to talk. You know, are you looking to close a chapter in your life and to step back and simply just living your life as a family with your husband, your kids, and a very extraordinary extended family?
So yeah, definitely living a more private life, but also just focusing more on personal growth, also once again relationship with my biological parents, and also just focusing my time on giving back to the community and helping other women out there and other children and other families as much as I can. Yeah.
Zephany, all in your time. It is your story and your experience. Really appreciate you talking to us. Thank you so much. Zephany Nurse, remember, it was 7 years ago where the mother, or the woman she thought was her mother, was sentenced for kidnapping. Livonia Solomons, kidnapping Zephany as an infant in April 1997, raising her as her daughter, even renaming her. Zephany Nurse is what Zephany wants to be known as. She was in fact raised up until 17 years of her life as Misha Solomon. Livonia, after spending 7 out of 10 years in jail, now prepares for parole. There has been a consultative process between Zephany and Livonia, albeit in public, in front of a parole board, but at least there's been a step at a victim-perpetrator dialogue. And of course, her story, whatever decision that she makes, she's entitled and she's justified to that. And whether, even if it comes with forgiveness of a woman who kidnapped her in 1997, I'd like your thoughts on this conversation. 021-446-0567. You can drop me a WhatsApp, 072-567-1567.